Here we go. I'm going to count us down and we're going to get started in 3, 2. Welcome back to another episode of the Fitness Business Podcast. Our guest today is James Patrick. James is a photographer and a marketing strategist. Now, he also is an author of the Fit Business Guide, the workout plan for your brand, and he's the founder of the annual FITPosium conference. So James is here. He wears a lot of hats. We absolutely love that. Those of you that are also into photography, just to let you know, a fun fact about James, he has over 600 magazine covers. So that's pretty cool. James Patrick, welcome to the Fitness Business Podcast.
So glad to be on. Thanks for having me.
My goodness, your resume, quite impressive.
It's a predilection of not liking to be bored. So always have to be doing something.
So tell me about your magazine covers. What's probably your pride and joy out of all those 600 magazine covers? Do you have one?
That's so, you know, what's interesting about photography is it's such a survivalist business. So the shoot that I look forward to, the feature I look forward to the most is the one that I have next on the calendar. And the one that I think the least about is the one I just finished. So that being said, like there have been some ones that stand out to me project wise. Like I did a project where I got to work with a bunch of Jewish war veterans dating back to every conflict going as far back as World War II. That left a significant imprint. Every now and then you get a pro athlete in the studio or a celebrity in the studio, and it's fun because it's kind of like a backstage pass to life. And I will say one moment was really cool is when I had 2 covers on national newsstands simultaneously. So I was able to walk into any bookstore or any grocery store and find both magazines side by side on a newsstand. That was a really cool, special moment. But outside of that, honestly, like the one I'm thinking about right now is the cover shoot I have this coming Friday.
All right. Well, maybe you could eventually let the secret out of the bag on which magazine cover this is.
You know, I have to be PC because out of 600 covers, someone's going to be mad I didn't say that.
Smart. All right. Now I also want to skip over to the fact that you're the founder of the annual FITPosium conference. Just take maybe 20 seconds. Tell us a little bit about the conference.
So working as a photographer, so many of my clients did not just want to get great photos, but they wanted to understand how to actually use these assets, these marketing assets, to grow a brand, to market a brand, and to profit from a brand. And I have a background in marketing and in advertising. I said, well, why don't we just talk about this? Let's gather together a group of people within the industry to really dive into these 3 pillars. How do you build, market, and profit from a brand? And that was the FITPosium conference. And we launched it to this small audience, a small 50 people in 2015, and at its height we had 500 people, and 50 speakers back in pre-COVID back in 2019. And what's been really cool is we've actually seen so many people take what they learned and apply it and completely change their business trajectory. And that's one of the really empowering things to see about it.
Well, we'll have to make sure that we get the link to your FITPosium on our show notes so that all of our FBP family can check it out.
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's get our episode started. I'm really excited. Today, we're going to talk about 4 steps to getting published and featured in media, which is a topic that we get asked a lot by our FBP family, obviously with social media and so many of the fitness professionals going out on their own and they're trying to make a name for themselves. I'd love for you just to start out and tell everybody out there listening, why should they listen today?
Our marketplace, if it wasn't crowded before, it's definitely crowded now. And to get yourself, your brand, your product, and your service to stand out against competition, it doesn't matter. Like I know your audience is fitness, but this does not apply to exclusively the health and wellness industry. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. You have competition. And you have to figure out how you can stand out against your competition, how you can amplify your authority against your competition, and how you can generate more leads than your competitors. And with a crowded marketplace, which is the online landscape that we have right now, when everyone rushed online to promote their brand, their product, or their service, it became very difficult for us as entrepreneurs to figure out how to connect with our target audience in a way where we actually earned their attention. And that's why what we've leaned in on, and since the beginning of my career 20 years ago, the thing we've leaned on the most was earned media. When I say earned media, I talk about magazines, digital features, podcasts, speaking engagements. It is any audience that you have earned the right to be in front of. It is the fastest way to amplify your authority, to enhance your credibility, and to generate leads for your business.
Yeah, very important for all of those entrepreneurs out there. So I'd love for you to take a second just to talk about the two big misconceptions to land media features. How do these professionals get featured in different media applications?
I think the first misconception is to assume it's only for a certain level of people, like it's only for a certain class of professionals, like a celebrity. Okay. I can't be in the media because that's for the celebrity. That's for big name people. And I just run a small boutique studio in my hometown. What do I have to qualify for the media? And the truth is that media is for every one of your listeners on the show. And more importantly, those who work in the media are looking for individuals like you to feature. And that's a very key point. Out of 600 covers I've shot, less than 10%, probably less than 5% were anyone of a celebrity status, meaning that 95% of the covers were individuals who just had something worth value that they wanted to share with that media outlet. And that media outlet said, we need to do a feature on you. And that's for the cover. Theoretically, the most important page within a publication. I've shot probably, I don't know, 20,000 interior features. That's probably like a 99.9% to a 0.1% ratio of non-celebrity to celebrity. Media is looking for individuals like you to profile and to tell your story. The second misconception is that I need to do something really big and really noticeable. And once I do that, they'll hear about it. They being your local news or a magazine or a podcast, they'll hear about it. And then they'll come to me. They're not looking. They don't have time to look. You need to go to them. You need to share with them what you intend to do for them and their audience. And that is what builds that connection to those media outlets. So one, it's not only for celebrities. And number two, they're not looking for you. You have to go to them.
I can relate so much to that because even with the podcast, we need guests.
Mhm.
We need industry experts. And yes, we do try to search the conferences and the publication, the magazine, the fitness magazine publications. But boy, it's so nice sometimes to have people come to us. They offer what their value is, and they'll kind of plead their case on why they should be on the Fitness Business Podcast. And it's great. We greatly appreciate that. And I think of it this way, that magazines need content.
Yep.
So they're looking for people. You just need to kind of step in front of the line or raise your hand and like you said, bring value.
So much of it is raising your hand. And the big fear is like, well, what if they say no? It's rare they do. Honestly, if usually they just don't respond. So like this whole fear that someone's going to respond back to you and say, who do you think you are to do this? That is just, it could not be further from the truth. We have to understand that podcast hosts and magazine editors and TV producers, they're humans. They're humans with an audience. They're trying to relay great content to that audience. And if you share something that they consider valuable to their audience, it behooves them to start a conversation with you. This is not an elitist industry.
Absolutely. So while we're on this topic, maybe you could share what are like 3 goals a fitness entrepreneur would have, and why do they want to get featured? Why would you want to be featured?
Really, it breaks down to number one is vanity, and there's nothing wrong with vanity. There are certain media outlets that I shoot for. They do nothing for my career. There's no real benefits other than it's just really cool for me to say, I've shot for Sports Illustrated, or I did a project for, fill in the blank magazine. It doesn't matter. And I do it just because I want to, right? And that's okay. But the other 2 goals are important when it comes to our business. The second one is authority amplification. Authority amplification are media outlets that build your clout, the trust, and the resonance your audience has with you. So I could say, as a marketing strategist, I've been featured in Business Insider. I've been featured in Market Watch. I've been featured in Entrepreneur Magazine. Because I can say those things, my current audience may trust me and my message may resonate with them at a higher frequency than had I not had those things. All right. The third goal is lead generation. Someone sees your media feature and they immediately enter into your ecosystem and raise their hand as a warm lead or a prospect, which could become a warm lead. Now, some people may think, well, aren't number 2 and number 3 the same? Not necessarily. You can have outlets that check both of those boxes that can amplify your authority and generate leads. And then you can have media outlets that only do one or the other. So I'll give an example. Let's say you own a boutique studio in Palm Springs, California, and you earn a spot on your local television news on a morning show. Okay. Now, does this amplify your authority? Maybe a little. But the people who watch the show, are they within your target market? Theoretically, almost 100% of them, right? Because they're in Palm Springs, California, and you only take in-person clients. So they could all be potential leads for your business. The flip side is, let's say you land a feature in Men's Health magazine, one of the most iconic titles of the last, 30 years. Yeah, that would massively amplify your authority. If you're selling a product or service and you're saying, as featured in Men's Health magazine, that carries some weight to it that you've been validated by a national brand. Now, how many people reading Men's Health magazine live in Palm Springs, California, who are looking for a trainer right now? That number may get real small, if not insignificant altogether. So you can see how some are done more for authority amplification and some are done more for lead generation. And honestly, it's up to you what is more important to you, or maybe both have equal weight and importance, and you target outlets appropriate to your goals.
Yeah. And I even just feel like it's a resume builder.
Absolutely.
And you never know whose hands your resume is going to land in. And you're right. Even if you are in the Men's Health magazine, and like you said, how many people maybe in your town are looking at Men's Health magazine, but it sure is nice that if you do get a spot on the local TV channel, you can say, hey, published in Men's Health magazine. But
yep. It doesn't expire. This is the nice thing about authority amplification. I carry those logos with me my entire career, and I use them. Authority amplification we use proactively. I use them when I'm pitching new work. I use them when I'm pitching other features. It might be of significant interest to a local news outlet to feature someone on a business segment who has earned the media features that perhaps I've earned. So I'm going to use those to my advantage to help push along other things. But here's the thing. Authority amplification only works if you use it. If you land the feature and you never talk about it, you never share it, you never post about it, you're not using the logo on your website, you're never pointing your finger at it. Hey, guess what? That magazine was on newsstands for 30 days. And after 30 days, we got another cover out.
very good point. So we have just spent a lot of time talking about a lot of reasons why you should be trying to work the media outlet. I'd love for you, for all of our listeners out there saying, okay, I get the why, I want to try this. Could you now deliver the 4 steps to getting published and featured in media?
It's going to seem frustratingly simple, and I apologize for that, but all the more reason to start. Number 1 is you just got to do a little bit of research to understand the media outlet and what media outlets you should be targeting. Really, the answer to that is, what media outlets is my target audience consuming? What podcasts are they listening to? What magazines do they read? What TV shows do they watch? You have to know, and this is part of your client avatar anyways, to know what they're consuming so you know how to get in front of them. I mean, that's 9/10 of marketing, is where's my audience and how do I get in front of them? So you should know what they're listening to, or you can pull lists of podcasts within a certain genre or sub-genre, okay? So you do research on the outlet. Let's take a magazine, for example. How often do they publish? What sort of features do they run? Do they have any regular segments or sections within the publication that you see yourself as an alignment for? Oh, they feature a new recipe in every single issue, and it's written by a nutritionist. Well, I'm a nutritionist. I should be writing these recipes. Yes, you should. I agree. Or, hey, they feature a workout spread in every issue of the magazine. Maybe I can come up with a really clever, interesting workout spread that they've never done before. You should absolutely do that. So you have to see where you align with any media outlet. Who's the audience, and what could you deliver to this media outlet that would be of value to the audience? And that's ultimately what the media outlet cares about, is what are you giving them that would be of value to their audience? It's not, hey, write a story about me, I'm interesting. Maybe not. What that interesting thing is has to have value, and you have to show how it has value. And that's the next step. So the first step, just do research. Go to a bookstore, pick up magazines, flip through them. Look to find who the editor-in-chief is. For a podcast, look to find who the podcast host is. For a local television network, find the morning show producer. Guess what? Their information is always on their website. May take some Googling, but it's not that difficult to find. Okay. Most magazine editors put their email address right in the magazine. So just by reading the magazine, you'll know how to get in touch with them. Step 2 is the actual pitch. Now, this is where we overthink constantly. Your pitch just needs to be this: a short email. Brevity matters. This is who I am. This is what I do being your job title or anything you do professionally that is of relevance. This is what I want to do for you. That's it. That's a pitch. Who I am, what I do, what I want to do for you. I get pitches every day to be on my podcast. And if it's a long pitch, I'm not reading it unless it's from a friend. And even still, like I had a friend who's a publicist send me this like 2-paragraph long pitch of one of her clients. And like I read the whole thing 3 times. I still don't know what he could talk about on my show. I have no idea. And I had to ask her, like, what are you even pitching him for? Who I am, what I do, what I want to do for you. What I want to do for you could just be, I'd like to write an article on this topic because I think this would be important to your readers. Or I'd like to come on your show and talk about the 4 steps of earning media. I'd like to come on your local news show and do a live demonstration of how to correct ab separation. Okay. You can come up with topics that are important to this media outlet's audience. And guess what? They're the topics you get asked about all the time. They're the topics and questions coming into your DM. They're the top questions and queries coming from your clients or coming from your audience. They're telling you what they want to learn from you. You take the same ideas that you're putting into your social media channel, that you're putting into your podcast, that you're putting into your blog, or whatever communication you're using to connect with your audience, your newsletter, and send those to a media outlet, because chances are they might be really interested in them. Now, here's the catch on pitching. You're going to send a pitch off and you might not hear back. And your thought is, they don't like me. They don't like the idea. They don't like my credibility. I'm not good enough. But the reality is 1, maybe they didn't see it because they're busy. 2, maybe they saw it, but they're busy. And so they just put it in a folder to look at later. 3, maybe they like it, but they don't need it right now. 4, maybe they're like, maybe, and they put it in a maybe folder. Or 5, maybe they're like, I don't know. And they just put it in an I don't know folder. Like there's a bevy of reasons why they might not respond, but all it sums up to is they're busy. So here's what you got to do. You got to follow up. You got to send a follow-up at least every, I don't know, call it 3 weeks. You got to follow up. Now, an appropriate follow-up is not saying, did you get my email? It's kind of passive aggressive and it might make, like, I would feel guilty if someone said, did you get my email? I'm like, yeah, I did, but I didn't respond because I'm a jerk, right? But you could follow up to say, 1, add more context to your idea. This is why I think this idea is important to your audience. And you could add more context by saying, hey, I just wrote another article on my blog similar to this. I just want to show it to you. Or I just did an interview on this topic somewhere else. I just want to show it to you because I can have a similar conversation with you on this. Okay. Or you can even point to media outlets that you had nothing to do with, but further validate your idea. Hey, the Washington Times just ran a full story on this exact topic. This is a really topical story right now that I would love to write for you. Okay. So you can either further validate your idea and add context to your idea, or you can just pitch new ideas altogether. Hey, if that idea didn't work for you, no worries. Here's another idea that I think would resonate for your audience. Or you could just follow up to be like, hey, love the recent letter from the episode. Hey, your recent podcast really worked for me. Like, be genuine, actually read the article, actually listen to the podcast. You know, it shows that you're invested in developing a relationship versus a transaction. Okay. But it could take 8 to 12 points of contact for a magazine editor or podcast host to notice you, particularly a really busy one. 8 to 12. So if you stop after 1 or 2, you're behind the others who follow up every 3 to 4 weeks, adding more context or further validating the idea or sending new ideas out. It's not difficult. Just keep a log. Hey, I sent a pitch out on this date. Here's my follow-up. Send another follow-up. Send another follow-up. They'll tell you if they want you to stop. Chances are they don't. They want ideas. That's the thing. You said it, Dory. They want content. It's not a question of if you'll get a media feature. It's a question of when will you get a media feature. I have never had a client, 20 years, I've never had a client not land a media feature. I don't think it's possible. If you come up with something that has value, a media outlet is going to want it. Okay. So then comes step 3. which is delivery. When you get an opportunity, you deliver and you over deliver. You turn things in easy. You show up on time. You show up professional. You show up with the right energy. Because what you have to do is you have to validate why that person took a chance on you, because they did. Your podcast host story, every time you invest your time and energy into a guest, that's time you don't get back. And if this guest blows it, you can't air that episode. And that was time you wasted. Okay. Same with the magazine editor. If they give someone an opportunity, that person does not deliver, that magazine editor has someone else to answer to. And that's not going to look good for them. Reinforce why you're given opportunity and over deliver. And when you over deliver, then comes the fourth step, which is just stay in touch. Because here's the thing, when they take a chance on you once, they're going to be willing to do it again, because you've already earned the right. But if you're running a transactional type of relationship with media outlets and you're just off to the next 100 different media outlets, guess what? They're going to feel a little used. They're like, oh, I would love to use this person again, but now they're saying they're too busy, or now they're saying that they don't have time to work with me, or now they're not even responding to me at all. I feel used as a podcast host, right? But here's an important thing. Yes, it can take 8 to 12 points of contact for a magazine editor to notice you. We know that. Let's now talk about how much time you need in front of that media outlet's audience for them to notice you. It benefits you to be on a podcast more than once. It benefits you to be in a magazine more than once, to be on TV more than once, because much like you have to build trust with that magazine editor, you have to earn the trust of their audience as well. And that is what repetitive features can do. And the best way to get repetitive features is to just stay in touch, because then you find out what they need next. Once you find out what they need next, that circle just continues, because then you can propose and pitch yourself for exactly what they need next. And you are in the know because you're in that inner circle.
There was so much in there that I could relate to with being the host here of the Fitness Business Podcast so many times. I know our FBP family can't see me, but I'm nodding my head going, yes, I can relate. I can relate. Well, I absolutely love your tips and ideas about the following up, for sure. Some really great tips in there. And then also, I love the fact that you're just like, keep on them, and it's all about how you word it. And I believe we were talking before we started recording, and you kind of said about make sure titles are catchy, and it creates a little bit of, inquiry, like, that's kind of a catchy title. What are they talking about? I love that you said that earlier.
The thing about titles that's important, I'm glad you brought that up, because it obviously you want your pitches to stand out. If they're getting, a dozen pitches a day, like some magazine editors do, you want yours to stand out at some point. And coming up with a catchy hook or a title could be a way to draw their interest into what you're trying to get in front of them. And a good way to learn, because this is not a talent, it's a skill, which means you can learn it. A good way to do it is just to read headlines, read magazine headlines, read the cover copy on a magazine cover. Every one of those is a caption. Every one of those is a hook. And when you start to frame your pitches as hooks, all of a sudden you can generate a lot more interest and intrigue into, oh, what is this? So if I were to just say something like, hey, I'd like to come on your show to talk about how I grew my business. Great, thanks. But if I were to say, I want to share a story of how I went from being a college dropout to running a 7-figure business, that's a hook. Okay. And you don't need this big transformation like that. That's hyperbole. But what is it for you? Okay. How the most critically busy professionals can actually save time through this meal prep approach, or it's kind of illustrating both what is the main point of what you're trying to address and what is the obstacle or the misconception or the misbelief that you are trying to undo with this. And when you start to focus on those, all of a sudden you can come up with some really good copy for your headlines or for your article topics.
Our listeners out there, please take what James Patrick says to heart, because I'm telling you, I get it here at the podcast with people pitching, wanting to be on the show. And so many of the pitches are about I. And I'm like, well, our listeners really don't want to hear 30 minutes about I. Where's the value? So please, listeners out there, listen and take James Patrick's advice. He is on point with this about getting noticed. Okay, that was fantastic. Great job.
Perfect. Hopefully that had some great value to it.
Oh, it had a lot of great value. You have no idea. Well, I'm sure you do, but I can relate just with how many emails I get.
Mhm.
And it's like you said, hey, I'd like to come on and tell you about how I grew my business. I'm like, yeah, I've got 20 other people that just started the same exact way. And it's like, my listeners don't want to hear how you grew your business. They probably grew their business, right? They're entrepreneurs. Most of them are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
They all grew their business, right? You know, but let me tell you what, I had a guy just recently, he sent me a video pitch. I'm telling you, as soon as I saw it was a video pitch, I'm like, this guy's on ASAP. Let's get him, because he was creative. It was 30 seconds. He was like, hi, Dory. My name is Dre Baldwin. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is why I'd like to come on to the show. And hey, please reach out. And I was like, sold. It was 30
And
seconds.
you can't copy and paste that.
No,
He
nope.
said your name.
He
You
said
can't
my
copy
name,
and paste
literally.
that. Yep.
When I emailed him, I'm like, Dre, I'm going to be honest. The fact that you said my name no less than 10 times in the video, I don't care what you talk about, sold. Hi, Dory. Hey, I thought, Dory, I'd like to get he didn't overdo it, but he definitely, I knew that,
But it shows he did his research.
Yeah. Do you know
The
how
ones that drive me crazy are the ones that just says, I would like to be featured. I'm sure you would. Yeah. This is one, and publicists do this a lot. And I don't know who came up with this idea. It's a dumb idea. It'd be like me, like, what was your last podcast you just published?
me?
Yeah.
That, like, the title?
Yeah.
What did we just do? Boxing. How to get a boxing gym up and running.
Okay, so my pitch is, hey, Dory, I just listened to your recent episode, How to Get a Boxing Gym Opened and Grown. I really liked it. I'd like to come on your show. I was like, could you have done any more than just copy and paste what my last episode title was? Like,
all the time. I get them all the time. Or they make mistakes. I'm like, you didn't even listen. You have no clue. I really love your podcast. And then they say something. I'm like, you just Googled.
Yep.
it.
So when I launched my podcast, it was originally for photographers. And then we pivoted 60 episodes in and switched it to entrepreneurs, mostly within the health and fitness space. But it's not myopic to health and fitness. But I still get pitches years later saying, I love your show. I'd love to come on to talk about how to grow a 6-figure photography business. I'm like, we haven't been a photography podcast in 3 years. So I don't know where you're finding this. But yeah, it's funny. It's the pitches we get for magazines are a little bit worse, unfortunately, because, well, you could tell when someone's never even looked at a magazine.
Yeah. All right, we have one last piece. Okay. This is a sponsored question for us.
Sure.
It is a question I'm asking you, and then you're going to answer, and we're done. I don't say anymore. And the question's going to be, what are your 3 tips for fitness professionals to land media features? What are your 3 tips for fitness professionals to land media features?
Now, we're going to talk a lot in this show about the tactics, but to address the strategy, there are 3 things that I want to address. Number 1, this is about being proactive, not reactive, about taking intentional action to get to where you want to go, as opposed to sitting back and waiting for it to come to you. Number 2, this is about building and maintaining effective relationships. I'm going to use the word relationships a lot in this interview because that is at the foundation of how we grow our brand awareness. And then number 3, it is about constantly seeking on how you can add value to the media outlets and their audiences.
Okay, you're done.
That was so fun. Thank you so much.
Minimal editing on this one. I just got tongue tied there, but that's about it.